The pick is in.
The Pittsburgh Steelers have made a selection in the 2024 NFL Draft. Alongside Locked On College Football host Spencer McLaughlin, I am Tanitra Batiste, and we are joined by Chris Carter of Locked On Steelers to break down the Steelers selecting Zach Frazier with the number 51 pick. So, Chris, what do you like in what you see in the center out of West Virginia?
First, I got to say, this is a dream scenario for the Steelers. The biggest question that we all had on Locked On Steelers for months was a lot of people wondered, is it worth taking a center in the first round? Because that's not the value. You want a 20th overall. You want to get a tackle. You want to get a corner. You want to get a receiver. You want to get one of those premium positions. But if you pass on the center in the first round, can you get one of the plug-and-play centers in this draft class in the second round? And many of us didn't think that would happen. A lot of us thought that Zach Frazier would go off the board. The Steelers remain patient and get their guy in Zach Frazier, who I know for a fact they loved. They loved Zach Frazier. He's a wrestler out of high school. He has the tendencies that you like out of the center, winning lower man battles, controlling the line of scrimmage, athletic, physical, has all the traits you want, and a great head on his shoulders, an all-academic guy in the Big 12 for West Virginia. I think he had a 4.0 average or something like that. This is the pick that the Steelers really wanted to happen. Troy Fautanu was the premier pick they wanted in the first round, but everyone was worried if they got that guy, would they get the center? They got him, and now the rest of this draft feels like gravy. The one position that throughout the offseason, they went and got Dante Jackson to add at corner. They went and got Patrick Queen at linebacker. They went and got Deshaun Elliott at safety. But Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith, their new offensive coordinator, kept saying, we want to control the line of scrimmage. So everyone's like, oh, well, you didn't sign a lineman, so how are you going to do that? What did they do that with? They got one of the best tackles in the draft, and they got one of the best centers in the draft. Two key positions of need and two big hits, I think, in this draft process.
And like you said, Chris, how impossible or improbable would it have been for them to get such a center, a high-quality center like that at 51? Pretty impressive.
I think it's very impressive. I honestly, I had Zach Frazier ranked as my 29th best player in this draft class. I loved his tape. I loved what he brought to the table. I know his injury scared a lot of people. He broke his leg in the middle of the season. But when I looked at his tape, I was one of the there was a very small group of reporters who waited 2 hours at the combine for him to speak at the podium. He was extreme because every team wanted him to do extra medicals to prove stuff. We waited 2 hours. We eventually got to talk to him, and I have to say it was worth it because he's a great guy. And now that interview is the interview with the guy that's going to be probably starting at center day one for the Steelers this upcoming year. I think this is a big get for the Steelers. It was improbable in my book, but hey, kudos to Omar Khan and his new front office. This is the second year where everyone said you can't take a tackle in the first round because they need this other position like corner. Last year, that was Joey Porter Jr. that they got in the second round. This year, they said the same thing. You can't take a tackle in the first round. You need a center. Well, this year, it's Zach Frazier in the second round. So at least value-wise, they seem to have a bead on where these guys are going to go. And I know the Steelers are very happy with how the first two rounds have shaken out.
For more on the Steelers, subscribe to Locked On Steelers on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Spencer, you heard Chris talk about the medicals. Are you concerned about Zach Frazier's medicals?
A broken leg will heal, but a loss to the mean machine lasts forever. I think that there are a lot worse injuries. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. There are a lot worse injuries to have overcome because broken bones heal a lot better than torn ligaments, than torn ACLs, which might be a ligament. I'm not a doctor, but a broken bone, you set back in place, but something like, a muscle problem, a joint, those sorts of things can linger. And I think when you look at what he brings to the table at the center position, a really prolific pass blocker can maybe improve a little bit in the run game department. Pro Football Focus certainly thinks so, though he was solid this past year at West Virginia, but multi-year starter, multi-year captain. This is the sort of guy who is not just a center on the field, he's a center in your locker room as well.
For continuing coverage of the 2024 NFL Draft, subscribe to Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.